welcome to David Essel Alive, America's positive television show right here on motivationandsuccess.tv. You know, every week I bring on the top guests in the world who are making a difference in this world, who are helping people to level up, to deal with life, even the most difficult times that we might face. My guest today is very familiar, and I can say, unfortunately, with dealing with trauma, with dealing with tragedy. Scarlett Lewis is someone I've known now for the past number of years, and I'll never forget, I'm getting chills right now, the first time I interviewed her, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that story. But first, she's a mother, an artist, an avid horsewoman, a new activist for peace. She is the founder of the Jessie Lewis Choose Love Foundation, and I'm going to give you a website that I want you to write down in a little bit. Created in honor of her son, Jesse, obviously, who was killed in the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre in December 2012. Scarlett, it's a tough way to open an interview, but I love you so much. I couldn't wait to have you back on my show. We've done multiple radio interviews. Now we get together on TV.
Oh, I love you too, David. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Now, when we met, and ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you this opening story because it's so profound to me. I've been in the world of personal growth as a counselor, radio host, and author, and all that stuff for over 40 years. 8 months after the Sandy Hook massacre, I contacted Scarlett because a publicist at that time, I was with Sirius XM Radio, told me that I needed to at least look at her book and see if I might want her as a guest. Within seconds, we had emailed, and within seconds, her response was, sure, I can do it this Saturday. Now, I'm thinking 8 months after losing a child that there's no mother or father in the world that could be ready to go live on air with millions of listeners and talk about such an incredible, tragic loss. And yet here she was. This just tells you a little bit about my guest, Scarlett Lewis. Here she was saying yes. And Scarlett, I don't know if you remember this, but I do. I'm in the studio at Sirius XM. I'm crying. I'm crying on the air, interviewing you. And I asked you a question, and I said, where are you in regards to forgiving the killer of your child? It's only been 8 months. I can't believe you're ready to come on national media. And Scarlett, at that time, you said you had 75% forgiven Adam Lanza. How the heck did that happen? How did you get to that level of forgiveness so quickly?
That's a great question. I took a little bit of a different approach after the tragedy. And, you know, everybody was so quick to rush to blame and to finger point and to fault find. And I took a step back, and, you know, everybody was blaming Adam Lanza, who was the former student whose mother had taught at the school. But I knew that someone that could do something so heinous must have been in a tremendous amount of pain. And I ended up learning about his life. And, you know, I knew, and I think most people know, that people don't just snap. They're cultivated into what they become throughout a lifetime. And of course, it took a lifetime of pain, disconnection, isolation, bullying, most likely abuse to get Adam to where he was to perpetrate that crime. And I had some help from Jesse. My son, Jesse, actually left a message on our kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love. Now, they were phonetically spelled because he was in 1st grade and just learning how to write. But when I saw them, when I first came back to my house, I knew instantly that if Adam Lanza had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, that the tragedy would never have happened. And so I knew that I had to be part of the solution. I knew that's what we needed more of. And I knew that I'd be spending the rest of my life spreading this message.
Yeah. You know, it was the second interview that, and I remember all of our interviews, Scarlett. I've been so touched by you. And I remember the second interview, I said to you, what is the motivation for you to forgive the killer of your child? And within a snap heartbeat, this was your answer. David, Adam Lanza may have taken Jesse's life, but I cannot let him take mine and my son JT's. So forgiveness was my only option. Do you remember that, Scarlett?
I do. I do. Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's interesting because we have a program now and we teach forgiveness to kids and to adults. But when I first launched this, all the adults said, you can't teach kids forgiveness. It's too lofty a subject for them. And what we found, David, and I haven't talked to you in a couple of years, so this is an update, is that forgiveness is one of kids' favorite character values. They love it. They eat it up. They practice it more than any other character value. And when you ask them why, they say it's like a superpower. It feels so good to let it go. And it turns out that it's us big kids that don't really understand the power of forgiveness. We feel like we are giving a gift to somebody who doesn't deserve it, that we're giving our power away, when in actuality, we're taking our personal power back. That's my new and improved definition for forgiveness. I mean, really, I've gotten a lot of attention for forgiving Adam Lanza, but when you think about it the way I think about it, I would never give my personal power to the young man who was so messed up that he perpetrated that crime. I would never give him power over my thoughts that impact my feelings, that then impact how I show up in relationships and my behavior. But the only way for me to take my personal power back is through forgiveness. And that's what Choose Love is trying to teach the world, the power of forgiveness and how it helps our relationships. And of course, our relationships are our key to happiness.
That's right, exactly. When I think of forgiveness, you know, I think of that feeling that we get inside, and it can be that warm feeling, you know, that we're in control again, right? That we're not going to allow someone else to modify our existence or to limit our existence. You know what's really sad, and this goes for adults, all you adults out there listening right now, Scarlett's program works for you too, because Scarlett, many times I'll work with someone who is divorced 25 years and they still are enraged that their husband left them for another woman or their wife left them for another man. 20, 25, 30 years we've worked with people. And, you know, so what do you say? Because your program can work for all ages. How do you get someone who for 25 years is holding on to that, but he cheated on me? What's the first step to get them free?
The first step is to have the courage to try a different way. I mean, if somebody's holding on to anger for 25 years, I think that's probably part of their identity and they're getting something from it. You have to be willing, and it takes courage to release that and learn a different way. It is literally a different way. It is not reactive. As human beings, we focus on the negative and we're reactive and we kind of match the same energy that we're given. And really our approach is thoughtful response and taking your personal power back, taking personal responsibility for where you are and where you're going, and not being a victim. Being a victim is literally, the definition is lack of control. And, you know, if you bring it back to my situation, I absolutely did not want to be another victim of Adam Lanza's.
Yeah, we're talking with Scarlett Lewis, and Scarlett, I'm going to ask you to hang in there for a minute. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a second, but write this website down: chooselovemovement.org. chooselovemovement.org. Write that down. And when we come back, Scarlett's going to talk a little bit later on in the show that if you're a teacher, if you're a principal, if you're a guidance counselor, if you're a janitor at a school, for God's sake, it doesn't matter. Go to the website. Her programs are available all over the world, for God's sake. And we're very fortunate to have her with us tonight. I'm David Essel. You're tuned in to David Essel Alive, America's positive television show. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Are you tired of sabotaging your goals? Are you frustrated that with goals with money or recovery or love or career are evading you? Hi, I'm David Essel. For the past 42 years as a #1 best-selling author, counselor, and more, we have created online courses that'll blow your mind and help you get from where you are to where you want to be. Today, I'm going to highly encourage you to grab the course online, Stop the Madness Now. It's a beautiful online course, several hours long, filmed in front of a large audience that's going to get you blasting through procrastination, eliminating self-sabotaging behaviors, understanding the power of self-love. There's so much incredible information in this online video course. Grab it now. Stop the Madness, an online video course, one of our 10 online video courses. You will absolutely love it. Stop the Madness at talkdavid.com.
Welcome back. You are tuned in to David Essel Live, America's positive television show. My guest, I love this woman to death. I've interviewed her multiple times on all kinds of different radio programs. I've even brought her into my seminars. I just think her message is so powerful, and what she's been able to do to help people all over the world is amazing. I'm talking about Scarlett Lewis. The website is chooselovemovement.org, chooselovemovement.org. Let's talk about, Scarlett, the skills necessary. You mentioned something that was so crucial. We're not taught forgiveness. We're not taught compassion in many places. We're not taught giving people a break. We're not taught these things. So tell us how your movement, how your organization helps teaches people these skills that are so crucial.
These skills are crucial. They're at the very foundation of healthy and meaningful relationships, of being able to manage our emotions, of being able to make responsible decisions, and also learn from, grow through, and be strengthened by difficulties that happen to us in life. These are called essential life skills. We're not born with them. And yes, we're supposed to be taught by our parents. But if you're a parent, as I was, without these skills and tools, you can't give what you don't have. But the great news is that you can learn them at any age. I am living proof, because when I was researching a solution to what happened at Sandy Hook, I came upon these essential life skills and I learned them as an adult. And I have to tell you that my life is exponentially better. Yes, it just takes an open mind and a willing heart. And you can do this as well.
Scarlett, you know what I find very fascinating? I mean, I find so much about you fascinating as a human being, but one of the things is that I think I asked you one time and we never really got into it, but I don't think you ever really jumped on the bandwagon that of gun control is the problem. You have been, as far as I know, more about teaching people proactive, preventative human relation skills. But do you have any strong opinion about the gun laws and what should be done?
Well, following Sandy Hook, that was a very polarizing issue. It was either pro or anti-gun, and the majority of the people went anti-gun. And I thought, I just took a step back and I wanted to thoughtfully respond. And I thought, well, that's not really working. And that's really matching the same energy with the energy that created the Sandy Hook tragedy. I mean, there was a lot of anger, a lot of fault finding and blaming. And I thought, I really want to be a part of the solution. I do not want to join that. I don't want to join in that negativity. So, I decided to address the cause of the gun violence. And that is lack of social and emotional intelligence, being able to manage your emotions, being able to work through issues that you're faced with in life, being able to thoughtfully respond rather than impetuously react with anger. And so I decided, there weren't a lot of people doing that, but there were plenty of people doing the other thing, which didn't seem to be working. And by the way, to date, hasn't worked. So I think addressing the cause, unless you're addressing the cause, you can't really be talking about a solution. Focusing on the problem has really seemed to just escalate more of the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about the number of schools your programs are in, the number of countries they're in. And also, I don't want to forget this. One of our past interviews, you talked about going, and I think you were talking to death row inmates or inmates in jail. And so talk about everything that your organization is doing, because it's amazingly widespread.
It's incredible. I mean, we started off with 4 pilot schools that were brave enough to take on Choose Love, and we just exploded. Now, in the past 5 years, we're in over 10,000 schools across the country in every state and 112 countries, continuing to grow. And by the way, all by word of mouth, mostly by referral, because what we teach works. It saves lives, and it gives you these skills and tools that you can use for the rest of your life to have a wonderful, flourishing life. And it has spread. It's really amazing, because when we talked about social and emotional intelligence previously, we were really just focusing on schools. And our programming has spread into homes as well as communities. We now have an infant toddler program. We have a prenatal program. And then I started getting requests from governmental agencies, from pediatricians' offices, from attorney generals, from governors' offices, and also from prisons. And I mean, some of my most amazing meetings have been in prisons, working with inmates or at-risk youth. And, you know, they have told me that all they ever knew was anger, hatred, and revenge. And you hurt them, and they're going to hurt you and those that you love. And this concept, just this concept that they could choose love in their lives. I mean, we're all the same as human beings in the want and need to love and be loved. All of us want this. It doesn't matter any real or perceived difference. We are all the same in that. And these men and women didn't know it was an option. And even if they wanted it, they didn't know how to get it. And so we teach this really incredibly powerful formula that can lead you to thoughtfully responding with love in any situation, circumstance, or interaction you face. And we've seen lives turned around and saved. It's really just been such a blessing for me to be a part of it.
The website, chooselovemovement.org, chooselovemovement.org. Now listen, you've heard Scarlett rattle off every kind of department, agency, school system, jail system, you name it, which means wherever you are, this is available for you. chooselovemovement.org. You know, I implore you to go and to at least look at the site. And you might know a teacher, or you might know someone that works in a jail or a prison. You might know someone that works with the PTOs. Who knows, right? Like, let's get this message out there. This is someone who's dedicated her life to help change this world. We need to support her and her movement and her programs. I believe now is the time to go chooselovemovement.org. Check out the website. You had mentioned off the air when we were talking about a really good friend of yours who recently lost her son. Can you tell us about that and what maybe could have been done to potentially prevent his loss?
Yeah, so I've known Blake almost his whole life, since he was 5 years old. And I worked with his mom in one of my first jobs after having graduated from college. So we've known each other for a very long time, and she's one of my dearest friends. And I've known that Blake has been struggling with recovery, and recently he overdosed, and the unfortunate and died. So I just came back from helping her bury her only son to overdose. And I know that overdoses are up 30% this year. You know, I talk about all the issues that we face in our world, in our schools, homes, and communities. And substance abuse is one of those. Mental illness, suicide, depression, bullying, violence, so many of these issues. We can do something about them. We can address the cause of a lot of this and therefore be part of the solution, reduce and prevent the suffering, sometimes before it even starts, by teaching essential life skills. And so now I've added another name. I say that everything that I do for Jesse, for my son JT, for Adam Lanza, the Adam Lanzas of the world, but also for the Blakes of the world as well. If you knew him, you would love him. He was a beautiful, beautiful human being. He had some trauma in his life, and he unfortunately didn't have the coping skills. He was introduced to drugs, and the story should be turning out a different way, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's really
We're
sad.
talking with Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett, I'm going to ask you to hang in there for a second, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be gone for 60 seconds. I'll quit 60, so don't go anywhere. Scarlett Lewis is my guest. ChooseLoveMovement.org. Please check it out now. You have 60 seconds. Go. ChooseLoveMovement.org. I'm David Essel. You are tuned in to America's Positive television show, David Essel Alive. Stay right there.
Hi, I'm David Essel. Right now, one of the greatest problems that's facing this world is not just the pandemic, but it's addictions in every form that you can imagine. Video game addictions, social media addictions, television addictions, arguing addictions, political conspiracy theory, vaccine, arguing about these things. It's absolutely insane. Alcohol sales up 1,000% from a year ago. We are seeing in our client base so many people struggling with addiction. Alcohol, pot, drugs, you name it. Food, oh my God. The food addiction is through the roof. About 80% of Americans now are overweight or obese. It's crazy, but we have the solution. It's an online video course called Holistic Addiction Recovery. Extremely inexpensive at talkdavid.com. We talk about the origin, the cause, the solution of addiction. I know this course will make the biggest difference in your life. Holistic Addiction Recovery now at talkdavid.com.
Welcome back. You're tuned in to David Essel Alive, America's Positive television show with my guest, Scarlett Lewis. Check it out, ChooseLoveMovement.org, ChooseLoveMovement.org. Now, Scarlett, we're talking a ton about this program, 10,000 schools. I forget the number of countries this is in. Remind me the number of
112 and growing.
112 that this movement is in. Now, what is the cost to bring this program into schools, prisons, etc.?
Zero. It's no cost. And here's the reason, David, because this would have saved my son's life, and this could reduce and prevent so much, the majority of the suffering that we're seeing in our world today. And so it was really important for me that it be no cost, so that everyone is entitled to these essential life skills that help us have healthy relationships, help us manage our emotions, help us get through and grow through the difficulty that we have in our lives. These are simple, essential life skills that everyone should have.
Yeah, it's so crucial. And yet, as we've talked about through this whole show, these teachings have not been available at the elementary. Now you're even saying preschool. You're even talking about helping pregnant women learn these skills. I mean, it goes from there to prisons. It's incredible the impact that you're having, and no cost. ChooseLoveMovement.org, ChooseLoveMovement.org, ChooseLoveMovement.org. It's free, for God's sake. Scarlett, a question for you. In the last 10 years, how have you changed?
So it's been 8 years since the tragedy. Yeah. And I call this the new chapter in my life. I completely changed. Everything about my life changed. In fact, I remember sitting on the couch and thinking, well, if my life is going to change like this, one of my sons murdered, then I'm going to change everything about my life. I quit my job and I dedicated my life to service. And it was the best decision I ever made. You know, first of all, I learned these skills and tools, and I really hadn't been, I mean, we call it choosing love, but I really didn't know these skills and tools before because I was never taught them. So I learned them in helping develop this program. And I have to tell you, my life is exponentially better. Everything in my life is better. I'm happier, believe it or not. I mean, it's hard for me to say that with the genesis of all of this being such a huge tragedy. But the bottom line is, it doesn't mean that you have to stop your life. A lot of people have a lot of bad things happen to them. And it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you thoughtfully respond to what happens to you. And you can still have a beautiful life, and you can learn. In fact, I think this is why we're on this earth, David, is to learn from the difficulty that we face in our lives, and then take what we learn and use it to help other people. And here's the key: when we do that, we help and heal ourselves. It's not why we do it, but that's what happens. And I think that's what we're all on this earth to learn.
Yeah. You know, you sharing this message in my work, we do a lot of work with emotional regulation. We have courses that we teach couples that how to get out of arguments in 15 minutes, how to forgive. I will tell you, that 90% of the time I can do that with my partner, but I can still struggle at times too, with
Absolutely.
with moving on. So it's a constant learning. It's a constant growing. When people look at the work that you do and the work that I do, we don't want to be put on pedestals. We're human beings. We can still make errors in our life. But the key is, are you moving forward? That's the question. Are you growing? Are you learning new skills that Scarlett's talking about? And we've got a few minutes left, Scarlett. Let's talk about these skills that you're teaching.
Well, I'll talk to you about the formula, and that's the basis for everything that we do. And then underneath the formula, we teach about growth mindset and positive psychology and neuroscience, post-traumatic growth, which is growing through difficulty, and all sorts of other things, all underneath this formula for choosing love. And so I'll go through the formula. It starts with courage. Courage is the most important character value. It underlies all the rest. And science tells us that courage is like a muscle. We can actually practice to strengthen it. Of course, Jesse was very courageous on that day. He saved 9 of his classmates' lives by standing up to the shooter before losing his own life. And I talk about that because we all have the capacity for Jesse's courage. But in our own lives, hopefully that never looks like that. In our own lives, it looks like being our authentic selves, speaking our truth. It talks about doing the right thing. It talks about facing our fears rather than resisting and avoiding or even numbing ourselves. And then the second character value is gratitude. And of course, this comes through the definition of Jesse's message: nurturing, healing, love. Those 3 words are actually in the definition of compassion across all cultures. Nurturing means loving kindness, and gratitude. Gratitude's so vital. As you know, it can literally change the wiring in your brain. The majority of our thoughts every day are negative and repetitive. And so we can only focus on one thought at a time. So you can use gratitude to shift the focus of your thoughts when you're ready. That neuroscientifically strengthens you to consider forgiveness. Forgiveness, yes, you need to learn about it, because it is, in some cases like mine, the only way to take your personal power back, to cut that cord that attaches you to pain. Think about why you might not want to forgive. Is it because you're afraid of what you could become? You do not want to be attached to the person that hurt you. But you need to have courage to take a look at it, to make that choice. And then, of course, it becomes a process. And then love, in Jesse's message, because healing literally means forgiveness, then love is compassion in action. And it absolutely takes courage to step outside of our own busyness and distraction, even our own pain and suffering, to identify the need of another and then actively do something to help ease that person. But when we have the courage to be grateful rather than focusing on anger, hatred, and resentment, to forgive rather than just being mired down in resentment and anger and hatred, and then the courage to step outside of whatever's going on in our life to help somebody else, we've chosen love and we've taken our personal power back. And I tell you what, I practice this formula every single day, and it is the key to my happiness and joy.
I love it. Scarlett Lewis, I have one final question for you. If you could think of someone alive today in the world of personal growth that does something similar that you do, who you look up to and who inspires you, is there anyone that comes to mind?
Well, you know what? I've been looking behind your head and you can only see a portion. Now, he may not be alive, but he is very much here. Dr. Wayne Dyer. He was always so inspiring to me. And then I read all of his books. I was able to meet him 2 months after Jesse's murder. He brought me on stage at the Javits Center. He let me tell my story, which is now literally the video that goes along with the book, the trailer for the book. And he wrote the foreword to the book. He said, wow, this has to be a story. People need to hear your message. And so Wayne helped me, but he also helped me thoughtfully respond to what happened in the Sandy Hook tragedy. And so I'm very thankful to him. And I know that he passed on, but I know that he's also very much here. So I would pick Wayne if that's okay.
I love it. Oh, he's been such an inspiration. And I remember when I interviewed you the very first time, you said that story about Wayne bringing you up on stage. And so I had a feeling you might call his name out. I think it's just adorable. Scarlett, you're just so inspiring to me. As you know, I love the work you're doing. I just think as a human being, you're one of those people taking what you know to be true, spreading it around the world with love. Doing this program for free is unheard of. Ladies and gentlemen, choose lovemovement.org, chooselovemovement.org. I can't say that enough. You've got to go there right now. If you're associated with any type of organization whatsoever, you can have the program brought in at no cost.
Parents, make sure your schools have this. If there was one thing that I could have gone back in time to do, it would have been making sure that my kids' school had a comprehensive social emotional learning program like Choose Love in there. And they need it in there. They know it. And this is a great program. It not only benefits the kids, but it benefits the educators and adults as well. And they can all work together to thoughtfully respond with love. It helps their culture. And it really is the #1 way to have a safe school, which is having a loving, compassionate, kind culture.
Beautiful, just beautiful. Scarlett, I want to thank you again. I'm going to be tapping into you in the future. You know that. I don't let many years go by before I call on you. Amen, right?
Absolutely. Please. I love you, David, and it's an honor to be on your show every time.
We have so much fun together, Scarlett. And you know what? I mean, from the very first time, even though I was crying, you were fine. I felt this immense connection with you personally, as well as your work, which is why I want to continue to spread it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad that you've been a part of our program. Listen to Scarlett's message, go to the website, make a difference in this world. It doesn't cost a penny, not a penny. You've been tuned in to David Essel Alive, America's positive television show right here on Motivation and Success TV. Have a beautiful day.